What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video, and today I want to talk to you guys about consoles that I recommend for collectors that are just starting out. Now, with this list right here of consoles that I'm about to recommend, I wanted to throw in a bunch of consoles that are kind of a mix of consoles that I believe are some of the essentials to have if you are someone that really wants to dive into the world of retro gaming, and also talk to you guys about some consoles that I believe are also underrated to collect for as well. I'm also not going to recommend consoles that I believe to be really expensive to collect for. So consoles such as the Sega Saturn, while I may love them and do enjoy recommending those types of consoles to collectors as a whole, but I believe as someone who is starting out as a game collector should probably keep things a little bit more budget friendly in the beginning. So of course, with these consoles right here, I'm going to recommend you guys a bunch that are cheap and also kind of midline when it comes to the price point of collecting them. I'm also not going to throw these in any way, shape, or form, which ones are the cheapest, or the best, or the worst, or whatever. These are just consoles that I recommend for collectors starting out. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive right into this video and take a look at some consoles that I recommend for first-time collectors right after the intro. Alright, so I'm going to start things off with a console that I believe you just cannot go wrong when it comes to starting out as a game collector, and of course, continuing along with the journey of being a game collector. That is the Super Nintendo, with games such as Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man X, Star Fox, F-Zero. You just cannot go wrong with the Super Nintendo. Now, the Super Nintendo is not the cheapest console to collect for, but of course, it isn't the most expensive console to collect for either. I mean, picking up a game such as Super Mario World, if you're going to get the game loose, it's going to run you about between $20 to $30 online. Of course, if you decide to go complete in box for collecting some of these cartridge-based consoles, of course, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Me personally, I recommend going cart only for a variety of different reasons. I'm not going to describe every single reason right here in this video because I got another video that talks about just that you guys can watch right here if you guys are interested as to why I personally don't collect complete in box for cartridge-based consoles. But yeah, when it comes to some consoles that I strongly recommend for first-time collectors, you just cannot go wrong with the Super Nintendo. It has a fantastic library, and if you're looking for the cream of the crop experience when it comes to retro gaming and retro collecting, you just cannot go wrong with the Super Nintendo. Now, of course, I want to talk to you guys about a console that I believe is very underrated to collect for, and I love collecting for, and that is the Xbox 360. There are so many great games on the Xbox 360. I'm talking about games such as Dead Rising, the Halo series, Gears of War, Fable. Those are all games that I've had so many great memories playing. And what's really nice about collecting for the Xbox 360 is that not only does it have a fantastic library of games, but it's also a very cheap game console to collect for. With my collection sitting over 500 Xbox 360 games, I can truly recommend you guys so many great games that you guys can buy and pick up for the Xbox 360. Now, of course, when it comes to this console right here, a lot of people do get concerned about the red ring of death, and rightfully so. But what's really nice about the Xbox 360 is that with later models, you don't have to worry about the red ring of death as much. Yes, it does happen, but nowhere near to the degree as it once was back when the Xbox 360 first came out. I'm not going to talk to you guys about which models of the Xbox 360 get it more or less when it comes to the Red Ring of Death, because there's already videos that talk about just that when it comes to collecting for the Xbox 360. But what I will talk to you guys about is that if you are looking for a budget-friendly console to collect for with a great library of games to collect for, of course, a console that I consider to be relatively underrated to collect for as well, you just cannot go wrong with the Xbox 360. There are so many great games, and of course, with a price point of where it is at today with picking up some of these games, I think you'll have a great time if you do decide to collect for the Xbox 360. Now with the PlayStation 2, this is another one that I strongly recommend for first-time collectors, because not only is this another one that's really cheap to collect for, but just like the Xbox 360, there are so many games that are, in my opinion, like there's literally something on the PS2 for everyone. Whether you are somebody that loves platformers, fighting games, RPGs, there's literally something for everybody on the PlayStation 2. And what's really nice too, when you are looking for deals, you don't necessarily have to go to garage sales or thrift stores. You can even find good deals for PS2 games online. Now, granted, there are still some rare games that are pretty pricey on the PlayStation 2, but I would mostly argue that the majority of the PS2's library is very affordable. And I will say one thing, if you are looking for some good recommendations of PS2 games that are affordable, I'll link another video right here that you guys can check out where I literally talk about some pretty awesome PS2 games that you can get for really, really cheap. And I really have to say, what's nice about the PS2 is the fact that this is the best-selling home console of all time. So, of course, we're talking about a console where there were so many units sold. Of course, that means there were so many games that were sold as well. And because there was so much supply put out there when it comes to the PS2, you don't really have to do that much work to get a deal. I've seen some pretty good lots on eBay where sometimes you'll be getting like $100 for 20 games, and if you average it all out, that's about like $5 a game. I've seen deals where sometimes it's like 20 games for $50 with free shipping. I'm going to be the broken record and say you don't really have to do that much legwork to find a deal. And again, you're going to get so many great games from the PS2's library. Again, this is just another one that's just a no-brainer to recommend for first-time game collectors. Now, this console is one of my favorite game consoles of all time, and I consider this console to be also pretty underrated as well. Which console am I talking about? I am talking about the Sega Dreamcast. Now, the Sega Dreamcast is not going to be as cheap and affordable as the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 2. But why I am recommending the Sega Dreamcast right here in this video is because it has so many great games, and anybody that has ever owned, played, or collected for a Dreamcast can back me up on that. With games such as Jet Grind Radio, Sonic Adventure 2, Power Stone, Seaman, I mean, the list goes on with just so many great Dreamcast games, especially if you are somebody that loves fighting games, because the Sega Dreamcast had more support for fighting games when compared to the 64 and the PlayStation 1 during that time. And with the Dreamcast, it's, like I said, it's not going to be the cheapest console to collect for. But again, it's not going to break the bank, at least in my opinion, if you're going to be going for something like first-party GameCube titles or for the Sega Saturn library of games. You are going to have to pay up more than say the PlayStation 2 or the Xbox 360, but I think you are certainly going to get what you pay for with some of these games, because I can truthfully tell you a lot of these games certainly deliver on giving you an amazing experience. And because I love the Dreamcast so much, it is one of my personal goals right here in the game room to essentially go for a full, complete North American set one day. And if you are somebody that has been following the channel for a while, you already know that's one of my goals. But before I get too sidetracked about some of my own collecting goals, if you are somebody that is willing to pay up for some games and is looking for a high quality experience, I gotta say, there's no reason not to mention the Sega Dreamcast, just because I think it's one of those things that you'll thank me later if for whatever reason you haven't played it and you finally dive into the world of Dreamcast. Alright, and this is another console that is easily one of my favorites of all time, and so many retro game collectors and retro gamers love this console for good reason, and that of course is the Nintendo 64. Now, as you guys can see right behind me, I have a bunch of games that are complete in box for the Nintendo 64 before I decided to change my mindset when it comes to some of my collecting goals. Now, what I'm willing to argue about the Nintendo 64 is that there are so many games on there that are so good and worth playing. Yes, there are some games out there like Superman 64 that are just not pleasant to play at all, but what I'm willing to argue about this console right here is the fact that if you were to throw the entire library of the Nintendo 64 onto a dartboard, and I would be willing to argue that 9 times out of 10, if you were to throw a dart at that dartboard, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be hitting a game that is worth playing, a ton of fun, and I mean, let's just face it, there's not very many games on this Nintendo 64 that are bad. Again, this is another one I want to get a full, complete set for one day, and just like the Sega Dreamcast, it is going to be a console that you are going to have to pay more than the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 2. But again, with what the Nintendo 64 has to offer, especially with games such as Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, I think that, again, you just cannot go wrong with the Nintendo 64. If you guys are curious at what Nintendo 64 games I've been playing this year, I've got a video that I'll recommend that you guys can watch right here, where I do talk about exactly what games I've decided to play right here in the wonderful year of 2025. So hopefully that that can give you a couple recommendations of some games to hopefully get an idea of which games you should pick up if you decide to get into 64 collecting. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.